All right. Welcome into the first show of the year, the Rice Football Blue and Gray preview show. I am Matthew Bartlett, the director of the Roost. I am joined, as always, with third year in a row, now something like that, with voice of the Owls, JP Heath. Well, this is not your third year as the voice of the Owls, but our third year, I think, doing this together. Here to talk some Rice, here to talk some Texas, here to get into the football season. It is here.
And you know what this is, by the way, hello, good brother. I just realized this, best time to realize it. I get to do my JFK impression again.
We should have let off with that.
I know. Why didn't we? We're burying the lead. Why does Rice play Texas? It's on the schedule. And it's hard. All that.
Yeah, it's hard.
But
we got a lot.
Yeah, good setup. We've adjusted. We're ready. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, we got a lot. We got a lot to get to today. We've been chomping at the bit to get back on with you. We got want to go through preview Texas, and as much as we are experts on Texas Longhorn football, we thought it might be useful for our audience to bring in somebody who is on the ground, working, covering the team, and there. So Chuck. Chuck didn't set this up. JP, who am I talking to? You set this up. We got Craig Way here, voice of the Texas Longhorns. JP, anything else we need to say in introduction of a cohort of yours in the broadcasting world?
That's an insult to call him a cohort of mine. But went on his show yesterday. I thought good friendly fire going back and forth. Craig, you got us. Live engineering, always interesting here.
Yeah, I do have you, and it's a pleasure to be on with you guys. And you did bring to mind the President Kennedy thing when he went on for that we choose to go to the moon and to play and have Rice play Texas, not because these things are easy, but because they're hard. Hey, it's hard to get a new football season off to a start, right? But we're all ready to go.
Yeah, it's only fitting. I wanted to start on the defense of like everybody. The headlines always go to the offense, so I'm kind of contrarian. Just what have you seen from this defense? Because rightfully so, the offense gets the headlines, but the Longhorns defense in the offseason and Coach Kwiatkowski, hopefully I'm still pronouncing that correctly. He's done a steady job there. What have you all seen from him in the offseason leading up here to this opener?
Well, I think the number one thing, JP, is continuity. Same coaching staff now in its third season under Steve Sarkisian. And Sark has been very, very pleased with the fact that they've been able to maintain that continuity within the coaching staff. That includes Pete Kwiatkowski, or PK, as everybody likes to call him, and as he prefers to be called. That there's a real settling influence, I think, now that they have that. Now, in terms of the pieces, I think you have to start with the preseason defensive player of the year. Jalen Ford had 119 tackles last year. Most folks thought that he should have been named the defensive player of the year last year in the Big 12. Wasn't, but he is the preseason defensive player of the year, and that's a big part of it. I think also in the secondary you have returning veterans like Jahdae Barron, Terrence Brooks, Jaron Thompson, and then they're pretty excited about what they have in terms of the transfer portal and getting Jalen Catalon, the former Arkansas Razorback, who, when he has been healthy, has been really something special. So I think that's where you start with that. If there are to be some question marks with regard to the defense, it's how will the defensive line play, especially off the edges. They've lost some key pieces off of that defensive front, but they do have guys with a lot of experience and a lot of snaps. Guys like Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat, and then also Alfred Collins, Baron Sorrell coming off the edge, and Ethan Burke, a youngster who's really starting to play a lot more now. So I think those guys all come to mind as candidates to be big defensive leaders along the front.
Matthew?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. In the era of the transfer portal, it seems like teams have taken over every different kind of philosophy, right? Like, let's bring in everybody or let's pick and choose. It feels like, from what I've seen of the Texas roster so far, that they've had the ability to be kind of choosy. You mentioned Jalen Catalon, and I know we got probably A.D. Mitchell, the big name, brought in on the offense. How have you kind of seen that fuse with what was a pretty good Texas team last year that didn't feel like it needed a full makeover.
Well, it's interesting you bring it up that way, Matthew, because Steve Sarkisian was asked after spring practice and then even at the start of fall drills, did they feel like they needed, excuse me, to go and get some other pieces? And he said, we really don't. We like what we have. They've been very good in the recruiting end of it with the freshmen coming in, but to be able to add a Jalen Catalon to do that, I think that makes a big difference. Gavin Holmes is a young man transferring in from Wake Forest who has been battling Terrence Brooks for a starting corner spot. And then they have a really talented freshman in Malik Muhammad, Manny Muhammad, as they like to call him, from South Oak Cliff and Dallas, was on their back-to-back state championship teams. And he has really battled for a lot of playing time incoming as a true freshman. Now, as you mentioned on the offensive side, adding an A.D. Mitchell, I think makes a difference, and it helps certainly with the receiving core. But to your point, Sark has felt like they haven't had to go as heavy into the portal this year as they had in the first couple of seasons.
On the offensive side of things, by the way, intro to Bordy, best guesstimate of how things will go. Hear a lot of hype of C.J. Baxter, the true freshman 5-star. Talk about the running game. We saw Jonathan Brooks a couple years back. All time is a myth. It all blends together. But Robinson hurt Rice last time too, special teams as well. So, I mean, Texas obviously loses a lot, but it seems like y'all still have plenty in the cupboard there in that specific ground game department, Craig.
You know, JP, you start with the fact that you're not going to be able to completely replace a Bijan Robinson, and Roschon Johnson was a great change of pace back with the offense as well. That said, they do have pieces. They do have guys who can do it. You mentioned Jonathan Brooks from Hallettsville and a former Mr. Texas football in high school and part of a state finalist team a few years back. C.J. Baxter was the highest recruited running back in the United States coming in and coming out of Orlando, Florida. You brought up Keelan Robinson, a guy who's been a special teams warhorse and who can catch the ball out of the backfield. It's important. And even Jaden Blue from right there in Houston, in the Houston area out of Klein Kane, those are all guys who can contribute. This will be much more by committee from the backfield this year and less of what it was last year, which was, get it into Bijan Robinson's hands either by way of handing him the football or swinging a pass out to him, and then Roschon Johnson pretty much pummeling between the tackles inside. This will be more by committee with those four guys.
And I'm interested to see, because the thing that has intrigued me so much about, doing the prep work and getting ready to see Rice and Texas play is you go down the list and, you Mr. Texas, best in the country at this, the roster is star-studded and it looks great on paper. I think the challenge that I've heard from Texas fans and from folks, following this team over the years is translating the on paper talent of this team to reach their full potential. I know people are talking Big 12 championship, people are talking playoff. What have you kind of seen with the program, behind the scenes that might make you more confident or less confident that they're going to be able to put all those pieces together and reach the ceilings that they have set for themselves?
Well, Matthew, I think the biggest plus on all of this, and listening to the coach and having been to some practices and seen it, as well as he likes the makeup. What's that C word we all use these days? Culture. That they like all of those things that come to the fore, and they have the type of players that can register those kinds of numbers. And they had some big wins last year. I mean, obviously the 49-0 win over Oklahoma was a landmark victory for Texas. They beat Kansas State for the fifth straight year, the team that ended up winning the Big 12 Conference Championship. But they did lose some games that hurt them. They lost the game in overtime to Lubbock, to Texas Tech in Lubbock, and then lost the game at home to TCU when they struggled to run the football. So they know what the difficulties are, what's out there, not just the game at Alabama coming up in a couple of weeks. And of course they had Alabama on the ropes in Austin, ended up losing 20-19. And there were a few controversial calls in that as well. It's the attitude and the work ethic and that togetherness that Sark has seen from these guys that has him feeling good about what their prospects might be.
Got to ask about Quinn Ewers, of course. It would not be an interview in any football setting. You don't ask about QB1. Sark, I mean, on the surface, it seemed like a wise thing to quell any hype with Arch Manning coming in by saying, hey, Quinn's our guy months ago. So you've known he would be the guy. What do you look to see from him this season to know he can build off what, while it was injury shortened last season, was still largely a successful freshman year?
JP, the first thing you see when you look at him is to see him. He looks different than he did. He's dropped about 15 pounds, and he's really chiseled up a little bit more. He's always had the arm strength. He has always had. It's been about the comfort level with the offense. And Sark was asked about it in his news conference this week, and he said that when I give him constructive criticism, it's in the best interest of all of us, and he takes it in the best way, in the best interest of all of us, because we're all just trying to get better. But he likes the progress that he's made as well, and he truly is his teammates' quarterback. I know a lot's been made about Arch Manning coming in, the number one recruited quarterback and the grandson of Archie Manning and the nephew of Peyton and Eli Manning, but they've got another outstanding talent in Malik Murphy coming in from California, who's had to redshirt and had some injury as well. And those two have been battling for the backup spot. But the job, at least for now, and it has been certainly clear and apparent right from the start, this was never a question that this was Quinn Ewers' job to lose, and he hasn't lost it. He has only solidified his hold on the team's number one quarterback spot.
Matthew, anything else?
I was just say with Quinn and some of the weapons that we talked about a little bit in the running game, but going through Xavier Worthy is the marquee name, but Jordan Whittington somehow is still there. I think he played against Rice when was that 2019? JP feels like it.
That's when he got hurt.
Yeah. How important is it to, you talked about culture, but to have a couple of these guys sprinkled in the roster that are fourth and fifth and six-year guys those are not too rare in college football, but guys who have been, through the entire time with Sark and even pre-Sark within this roster.
Yeah. Matthew, here's the other thing about Jordan Whittington. You are right. He did play as a true freshman in the 19 game. He is a fifth-year senior. He does have that COVID year available to him next year if he were to come back. I think he'll probably head to the NFL, especially if he has a good season this year. But he is that extra X factor, no pun intended, other than X himself, Xavier Worthy out of that. But we brought up Adonai Mitchell, who we're told kind of really wants to go by that, and maybe AD in the second reference. So I'll kind of balance the two of those. But I'll give you another name to watch. Isaiah Nayor is a guy who transferred in from Wyoming. He got hurt in fall camp early last year, had an knee injury, missed all of last season, but he's a native Texan from Arlington, Lamar. He's another guy that they really like what they've done. Jonte Cook is a freshman off the state championship team at DeSoto who shows some things. And I think they've got one of the best tight ends in the Big 12 in Jatavion Sanders. So there are plenty of targets there for Quinn Ewers and for this offense. Finding the right guys in the key moments will be the important things that help this offense succeed. But there are plenty of good and talented receiving targets there.
All right, Craig. Thank you so much. Most important question of the show. We're foodies. Give us a place, preferably some kind of ATX hole in the wall. We're staying north, kind of in Craig Way country, but where do we go? One night in Austin, many a country song has started. So where do we go?
I'm going to recommend Terry Black's Barbecue there. But staying north. If you go just a little bit east off the toll road, toll 40, or straight up Highway 79, South Side Market, there's, of course, the original one in Elgin, which is a really good barbecue place, but they have one in Hutto now. So it's very close probably to in the area where you're staying. It's a closer drive. But if you want, obviously, some other authentic Texas barbecue, Terry Black's down on Barton Springs Road is good too. Can't go wrong with either choice, I'm here to tell you.
Yeah, and I think we've got a breakfast date. Not you and me. You're always invited, but Booster Bob's taking us to Cisco's. I guess that's.
You can't go wrong with that. Good call. But we would know Booster Bob would do that, right?
Hey, thank you, good man. The Craig Way Show, 2 to 4, KVET 1300 is back, and he's Craig Way. Catch him at a high school on TV, on the internet, radio, everywhere. Thank you, good man. Really appreciate you.
My pleasure, JP. Matthew, have a great week.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. That is the one and the only Craig Way joining us here. So there you go, Matthew. Most important stuff for the last year. We get the
I feel informed.
Yeah. Gotta talk ball. You get the business out of the way, but then you talk the fun stuff too. So floor is yours. What else? That's good. It's something else. We're always changing, always evolving, wanting to get more guests on the show each and every week. So you watch out if you're a broadcaster, reporter out there. We're coming for you on each of our preview shows.
Sneak up and grab you.
Yeah. If you're too friendly like Craig, we will bring that hook in and just take you on the stage here. What else you want to get to here with our time left? Any big keys, factoids, do's and don'ts?
Pick your brain a little bit, because with all the influence that we have over determining Rice's football schedule, and especially in non-conference play, we have none. But what is your preference? Because I was kind of thinking and going into the season of just given Rice and how things are, there's probably going to be a game like this on the schedule at some point in the year. Texas, Arkansas, Baylor, LSU was on at one point. I think they're there. Like, there's going to be a big game against a big team, a big brand. That's going to be tough. Would you prefer it out of the gate, or would you like to get 1 or 2, 3 weeks under your skis before you have to go up and play someone with the talent advantage like this?
It's a great question. I think, why not do it now? Let's do it. You've got enough hype for the season starting. Let's do it. But I can see the other side of things as Mr. Political JP. If you do have, they've had it in the past where they have conference games that start things. I definitely don't like that as far as the conference scheduling. I don't think that's in any plans of the American schedule coming up the next few years, but let's do it. I like, because I was on Craig's show yesterday. You got the build up. You're doing stuff on Orange Bloods. We're getting Bordy ready. We're doing this. So why not add to the hype of having a big rivalry like that? We're not to the Cougars next week, but even having that early in the season, it's like, all right. And schedules are schedules. Sometimes you only have a few spots you can put them. So if I had to choose one or another, water gun to the temple, I would say play it early. And let's see how it rolls. Just get it out there, and hopefully a big upset coming.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I was kind of sitting through them. Like, if you kind of sprinkle in the keys of, Rice is a heavy underdog in this one, how do you get those every little bit of margin you can get counts? How do you kind of engineer an upset like this? I'm like, well, the element of surprise helps. Like, Texas has seen JT Daniels. They haven't seen JT Daniels at Rice. I would wager that nobody outside of the Texas coaching staff knows who Landon Ransom is. And even then, they've never seen him play college ball. So you're going to need everything you can pull, from up your sleeve. And, Bloom joked yesterday at his press conference about, we'll do a double pass to Luke McCaffrey right off the bat. I'm like, was that like planting the seed so that you can do it anyways? Or like, what's the deal here? But I'm excited. It's fun that it's Texas, and it's intriguing because, Rice's, they put a scare into Arkansas. I remember that Baylor game was close down to the wire. They've played some of these teams closer than a lot of people think that they should, which is and one of the reasons coming out of the gate, I think it's intriguing. Is there anything else, from what you've seen from this offseason from Rice that has you, particularly interested in this season going? Like, what's on your little list of, man, I can't wait to talk about X?
Well, on Craig's show yesterday, it was JT Daniels, obviously. I think the number of times you and I have talked in the offseason.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, you've heard of him. Matthews joined me on the Sunday Rice baseball broadcast. That's a very advanced tease for March and April and May Sunday broadcast for our Jose Cruz-led Owls. But, man, how many times the last 2 years before we had to get that riffraff Taylor McCarg out of here and the fans got their show that they wanted on these very podcast and broadcast airways, right? I say that lovingly. Taylor's absolutely the best and big timer now. But how many times do we say the QB makes all the difference? I can't wait to see what he does. He's not all of the team, Captain Obvious, but when you add a dude, a blue chip guy like that, it can make the difference in not just 1 or 2 ball games, but 3 or 4. I'm not out here predicting that they're going to win 4 extra games and they would have had whoever would have been taking snaps. But hearing what Coach Bloomgren said yesterday and hearing, like when you and I talked to JT at Media Day, which seems like 9 years ago now, dude's built different. And you can see why he was judged so highly. And just seeing the workouts and seeing the 2 scrimmages, he's going to make so many guys better. And I that's the number one thing wanted to add there, because Captain Obvious say quarterbacks are important, and having a guy like that, like he said yesterday at the podium, that's been through that fire, he's not going to get rattled. And he's that type of alpha, I think, that can make other guys on the team better.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I know that I've kind of gotten some, to some degree, quarterback fatigue for the opposite reasons this offseason, because it's all been JT, because we're hoping that he makes as much of a difference as, all things have indicated so far. So, yeah, there's a lot of anticipation for that. And then this matchup, I am kicking myself. I think it's hilarious that he's taken his 3rd start at DKR, and Quinn Ewers will be making his 5th starting Texas quarterback. That's just absolutely bizarre. But also in this, I'm looking forward to seeing a couple guys get the chance to have their moments in a very hostile, competitive environment. We talked with Bloom a little bit this week about a guy like Sean Fresh, who, they've been raving about, had a fantastic offseason, got picked on at times last year. What's going to happen when you put him up against Xavier Worthy, who's not a taller guy, actually? So when you put him up, can he hang with him? Can he have a moment where he's like, hey, I can stand toe-to-toe and I can go with Xavier Worthy. I can handle whoever, XYZ throws at me. To kind of have those individual wins where we get showcases of, Coleman Coco and these guys that we've seen throughout the offseason kind of have their moment where, it's all of a sudden like it's all in theory when we see them going up against the blue and the gray. But when you see somebody going up against a different colored uniform, like, okay, now I can kind of go past anticipating and visualizing and I can see it. So that's on my list. And then just in general, everybody healthy. What is it? Bloom says, hold every rabbit's foot and everything else. If we can come out of this game with Bloom said yesterday, I thought this was really interesting. 1 player on their 2 deep projected that was not going to be available in this game. This is the healthiest Rice team entering a season since I can remember. I don't know how long it's been, but those are kind of my big things. Anything, if Rice is going to pull the upset here, anything you have on your punch list if they need to do this or that?
Try not to recycle the same things, but you look at the themes in the other games. You mentioned this a few minutes ago when it was close in the 4th quarter against Arkansas. You reminded me, or somebody did, it might have been Steve, that reminded us in the presser yesterday, the Baylor game, even the Cougars game in Bloom's first year was that 18-19. That was the ones that are close there, but beating Marshall, close in those other ones. The really only exception was when Texas won 58-0 in Steve Sarkisian's first game there. So you look at what happened in those games, and you can't have the silly special teams gaffe that they did at Texas. You have to have the big plays. I think Luke might be the first guy that would tell you the quarterback play was not good the last time that they were in Austin. So getting better quarterback play, and you've got to make it close in the second half and in the fourth quarter. You just can't have the shoot yourself in the foot moment. That's the number one. Where they've got it's Captain Obvious. They do have some of the talent advantages out there, but you can't play into that. They're not going to be in awe, I don't think. It was refreshing to hear what Bloom said yesterday, and even admitted that, hey, maybe I talked too much about that logo on the side of the helmet going into that last game. And we're not doing that this time around. So it's a veteran team, so they can't make the silly mistakes, but they also have to make some big plays of their own. So I've whittled my usual list when you ask that question towards the tail end of 16. I've got it down to 2. This is new JP, year 3 of the Blue and Gray preview showing. I've whittled it down there. I'm a master whittler now.
Yeah, you're doing great. And this is technically we're still in off season, so we have another 3 or 4 days to kick the dust off. So I think we're doing good so far. I'd say on my list is, man, just after watching Texas, growing up in the past couple of years, there's just something about it. They are always going to just fumble the bag somewhere. This is a team that has all the talent in the world, but just game after game, there's a mistake or two where just something doesn't translate, and there's a mistake. And most college football teams are like that. Nobody's going to play a perfect game. But I'm not. Just go out and take a bet that I don't think Texas is going to play a perfect game. I think they're really, really talented. But if you want to steal a game, you want to win a game by taking advantage of those little margins, man, when they put the ball on the turf, you got to get it. When there's that tip pass, you got to haul it in. When there's that play at the boundary on third down, you got to make it. You don't have to be necessarily perfect, but we talked about those swing plays and those potential playmakers. If Rice can win, more of those than not, then I think it gets interesting. And I think it gets at least more interesting than much Texas fans would care to admit, which would be entertaining for me. I would prefer it that way if I'm being completely selfish. Nobody asked me how we should script the game, but I'm gonna submit that one in there.
In the future, please don't. But in this setting, I like them. All right, we did well. We did well.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We got through. We now know everything we need to know. Thanks to Craig Way for coming in, and for you for landing that chat with him. I think it was super informative to hear what he had to say. And man, I think we're done. I think that means we sign off and we get up to Austin. We try a couple barbecue spots, and it's game time, man. I'm excited. Rice football is here. The season is here. We got Texas, got the Bayou Bucket. We got the American. Yeah, I'm still gonna pinch myself when I walk into Rice Stadium next week and there's a game with a little A on there. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be different, and it is so exciting to. Maybe that answers the question too. Just mixed in with all the excitement of everything else going on with this transition, and ain't nothing better. Football is back, Brother Bartlett. Football is back.
I love it. Thanks for tuning in. For everybody for following us. JP's cueing the music, driving me off, but I want to say thanks again. We will see y'all next week. JP made me promise not to dance, otherwise y'all might tune it off. But we will see you. We will be here back next week to preview Houston. Thanks for listening. Rice Fight
never dies, baby.